Hey everyone, you're live with Necee. I am your host, Opal Bailey, and today I have with me Amy Montecavo. Hey Amy.
Hello everybody.
How you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be here again.
Well, thank you for coming. For those who didn't know Amy or haven't heard the previous show she was on, she went on a mission trip to Mexico and she is now back. And so we are so excited to hear all about your mission trip. So please do tell us what has happened in from the time that you first went to now.
Yeah. It's just been amazing to go back. I've gone to Mexico probably every year since I was 15, I believe. So to just see the changes and all that God's done with the ministry there. My family has a ministry there, and just to look back when I was 15 years old, and the way that the church has grown and their ministries have grown. They have 2 feeding programs now, 2 mission churches, and they don't have enough seats in their church for everybody to sit down. So people end up standing up in the back during service. But it's so beautiful because you can just see a real hunger, and that hunger has just grown and grown for the people in that city. Which I know is what they've been praying for people to just be drawn to that place, to find God, to find the grace of Jesus Christ there at CFC is the name of the church there. So it was awesome being back. It was awesome seeing so many of my friends that I have there, and I really consider a lot of them like family members because they're just so welcoming and so kind, and it's impacted me every single time I've been in a different way, every single time. So I really, really enjoyed it. I wanted to do a lot more than I was able to because I did get sick while I was there. But, by the end, the Lord really did empower me to be able to preach the gospel at one of their services, at one of their youth services. And we just saw an awesome things take place through that. So it was really, really great.
Good. So you mentioned CFC. What is CFC?
Okay, I'm gonna have to remember. Centro de Familia de Cristiana. That's what CFC stands for. So it took me a second to remember. So yeah, that's it.
So what part of Mexico did you go to?
It's called Aguas Calientes, hot water. And it is right in central Mexico. So basically dead center of Mexico. So it's a beautiful, beautiful hilly place. The trip to get there, driving, there's so many gorgeous mountains, and you can see just a lot of different types of landscapes as you're going through, and it's amazing. It really is amazing. So I absolutely love it.
So when you went there, how was the geographic, like the living arranged, living and how the families and stuff like that? I'm sure it's totally different from here.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because you have so many different types of people within a, 2-mile radius, and you'll have really, really, really poor area where, the roofs are made of cardboard. And then you'll have very, very rich area with beautiful, huge houses, and there's a big, beautiful mall within just a couple miles of these really poor areas and poor houses. So you see both, but something that's remarkable is that I've never really seen somebody who it seems like they're extremely needy, when at the church, it's like they're just so thankful. They're all so thankful. They have this feeling of gratitude. Everybody that I've come in contact with at the church. So it just makes me come home and remember the truth of the fact of what I have, in Jesus Christ, that's more than enough for me to be thankful, for me to have gratitude every single day. Because, if we look at it here in America, we do have far more than a lot of places on the earth, but God has given us more than enough to sustain us through, the poor times and the rich times, through the good and the bad, and that's more than enough for us. So
can you say that the families are even closer? How's the family structure?
Oh yeah, I would definitely say the families are closer because it's more of a sense of, I don't know, I see it more like a team where it's not, just the father going out and having the job and making the money, but all of the children, help out at the house, and they're all helping, making tortillas and making tacos, and it's kind of like everybody's working together for a common goal. The older kids help raise the younger kids, which is something I've seen all around the world where I've been, and it's really a beautiful thing to see that as it's a tight knit like team. It's really remarkable.
So what are some of the challenges that you've seen there? Whether it's personally or...
let's see. I'm trying to think of what, a specific biggest challenge that I've seen with the community there. I think that a big challenge that they have is the fact that there's a lot of single mothers, a lot of single mothers. So that happens a lot where the mom just takes care of the children and the father is gone, and they they leave while the kids are at a young age, and that's been a really, really big challenge for the community there. There's a high percentage of people that are single mothers, and it's awesome to see what God's done with those people, because I even got to hear some testimonies while I was there of just how they trusted in God and how they didn't think they would be able to make enough money for their kid to even have their next meal, and how God provided out of nowhere, And so I think that's probably the most common thing that you see in that community. But it's awesome to see how God really always steps in to the roles that we need him to. So he steps in as that father that's needed for those children, So.
So what, I'm very interested about what you just said when it comes to the single parenting. So what does the men do? I mean, of course they have the children, but then do they just leave and do they go find work, or they're just like, I'm out, I'm done, I'm finished?
Yeah.
For it to be such a high percentage of.
It's more like, I'm out and done. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of crazy. Yeah.
And so what do y'all do? How do y'all minister to these women?
They have a lot of ministry specifically for women. They have a strong women's ministry, and a strong children's ministry. So they've actually just, redone all of their children's rooms. So, they actually made it so they could use another room that was for storage for an extra children's room, so they could just facilitate all of the kids and having a lot of people to take care of the kids, to teach the kids, and all that kind of stuff. So I think those two ministries being so strong really helps a lot, because it helps them to kind of bridge that gap of, what's missing, and realizing that, Jesus Christ, he's done it all for us, and he is that everything that we need. His grace is sufficient for us to supply for all of our needs. So yeah, they definitely have very strong women's ministries and then children's ministries to help out with that.
So I know that you're also a worship leader, songwriter,
yes,
and all that good stuff. So did you also perform in their worship service? Or I know you said you were sick at one point, but I didn't know where you were able to. Yeah,
they did have me sing in their praise and worship team. I'm still learning Spanish, so it's always a little bit of a challenge. But I love singing in Spanish. I almost feel like singing in Spanish is easier than speaking in Spanish. I think that's more of my language is singing. But so I did get to sing, and I always loved doing that. And so I got to sing. I got to do some ministry, and it's always wonderful to do ministry there and to just see the response. That there's so much hunger. That's probably the biggest thing that I noticed, especially this time, is just how hungry everybody is for God. In their services, it doesn't take, sometimes in services like in the States, it'll take us, the first 3 worship songs to kind of get into the presence of God and to really kind of get a revelation of God's love and that kind of stuff. But for them, they enter in that first worship song. They enter in, and it's like, it's amazing to see how they worship and they worship and they cry and they shout and they, even just in that first song from the very beginning, they're just so hungry for that presence that they seek it, they seek it out, and then God always shows up.
So why do you think is that way? From here in the States to where they are in Mexico, other than their need, but why do you feel that it's such a hard time, or it's such a hard moment to be able to get us to worship, Yeah,
I think it has to do with the fact that they are really reliant on God. They really rely on God to supply the needs, and I've heard so many testimonies of them, praying for their kid that, they can't take them to the doctor because they don't have the money for the doctor, and then God heals them, So they're so reliant on God, and they've seen Him show up so much that when they get into that time of worship, it's like they're full of things to thank Him for, things to be grateful for, because that's their source, and I think that's somewhat what we miss here in the States, is that we don't fully rely on God to be our source. We don't look to Him first, because we have the ability to look to other things and try on our own strength and try in many different ways to supply for our needs, but they don't really have that option as much. So I think that has to do with it.
So I think also when you was in Mexico, you also had revelation regarding your music.
Yes, definitely.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's such an awesome time. Every time I've been to Mexico, God always reveals things to me personally. I've had visions and words and dreams, and it was so cool this time to have that for my music, because I've been working on my music for about 2 years now. It's only been 2 years, and it's been such a dream of mine to record it and to finish it, to finish all the songs. So the Lord really provided for me what I needed to finish those songs. So He highlighted scriptures to me while I was in Mexico, and brought verses to me that kind of just went along with what I was trying to say in the songs, but I didn't necessarily know how to. So the Word of God just kind of came alive to me when I was in Mexico to kind of finish those songs.
So how did that process start? How did you get it going?
Well, even I've been seeking the Lord about my songs for a while, but even, as I was traveling to Mexico and, flying on planes and going through airports, which I love doing that. I just feel so inspired every time, because God just reminded me, in every person that I saw, every person that I talked to in airports, that there's no heart too far away. There's no person that God does not want to come into a relationship with Him. And that became such a huge revelation for me. Just every face that I saw them as God's children. I started to see a glimpse of how God sees us, which was my prayer. I started out, when I was on the planes, just praying, God, show me how you see people. Show me what to say to people. Show me how to show people the love that you truly have for them. So many people have built up walls against God, but they don't really know Jesus Christ, And so He began to just show me as I was traveling, I want that one. I want that person. I want that person. I want that person to come into a relationship with me. I want to capture that person's heart for me, because I love them so much, So that just became a huge inspiration, and really provided the lyrics I needed, finishing up the songs, and the inspiration I needed. And I feel like it's kind of all come full circle now. So,
do you